Welcome back to the Life of Lloyd. We're up to episode 8. Is this my new family? So, are we getting him? The kids babbled together. Yeah, let's take him home, said Arthur. Arthur handed Lloyd to Mary and turned around to the Twinsons. All right, we have a deal. We're going to take Lloyd. Mrs. Twinson burst into a cackling laugh and swished her jacket left and right. Of course you will. Yes, I told you so. Lloyd's heart accelerated to about 200 beats per minute. This was actually happening. Arthur took an envelope out of his jeans and handed it to Mrs. Twinson. As agreed, here is the money. Well, you must know that I never mess around with cash. I will need time to count this, exclaimed Mrs. Twinson. As you wish, it's all there, but you must count it in front of me, said Arthur. The situation suddenly went frosty. Everyone gathered around to watch the cash being counted. Lloyd could not count, but he found himself saying, 100 and woof, 200 and woof. He desperately wished the money was fine. The money is all there, declared Mrs. Twinson, as she jumped into the air and waved the cash around like she just won 100 grand. Passers-by stopped to see what was going on. Mrs. Twinson quickly stopped and straightened her jacket importantly. The money is good. The dog is now yours, she said quietly. A wave of energy washed over Lloyd and his eyes welled with tears. Arthur nodded and said, Thank you for Lloyd and goodbye. Expensive dresses swirled in Mrs. Twinson's mind as she thumbed the wad of cash. She idly waved her hand in the air like the Queen while saying, Yes, such a good deal. I should have charged you more. Suddenly, Jenny woke up from her phone-induced slumber and realised that Lloyd had been sold. She started screeching, I need to make one more socials post. Give me my dog. Mrs. Twinson looked concerned. Yes, that is important. Give the dog back, she ordered. An eerie silence descended on the group as the parents stared at each other. Mary calmly said, We have paid you as agreed and Lloyd is now ours. I am happy for you to say goodbye, but this seems unreasonable. I only need 20 minutes, screamed Jenny indignantly. How dare these people say no to her? Yes, just 20 minutes, you know. You can buy us another coffee, said Mrs. Twinson in a hopeful voice. Mary and Arthur looked at each other. Lloyd saw Mary give a little shake of her head, and that was all Arthur needed. In an assertive voice, he declared, It was lovely to meet you, and now we must go. Kids, walk in front of us. With that, the Boogles turned and started to walk away. No! Screamed Jenny. Mummy! Do something! Mrs. Twinson stood with pursed lips open, taking short gasps of air. She turned to Mr. Twinson and screeched, Get the beast! Now! Mr. Twinson stood there paralysed. He stared at the ground and said nothing. He was a defeated man. Lloyd was up on Mary's shoulder as the Boogles walked away. He watched as the Twinsons turned on each other and started fighting. The Twinson ladies yelled while Mr. Twinson held his arms up defensively. Jenny threw her coffee to the ground in a tantrum. The near-full cup splattered all over their legs. The yelling got louder and the arm flapping began in earnest. Lloyd watched the circus slowly fading into the distance. He was a polite poodle, so he resisted the urge to stick his tongue out and blow a raspberry. He hugged down into Mary's neck as they rounded the corner, and his old family disappeared from view. Goodbye, Twinsons. I wonder if that's forever. Maybe not. We might see them again. Let's find out later. Lloyd rode Mary's shoulder the whole way home. You look like their shoulder commander, laughed Jack. You do, Lloyd. You look like the commander of the Boogle Army, chimed in Dawn. Lloyd laughed. From Mary's shoulder he did feel like the commander of the universe. Soon they stopped across the road from a little cottage. It was a Victorian-era timber cottage, painted yellow and white. There was a small cottage garden out the front. Bees and butterflies danced and buzzed around carelessly. Lloyd watched in disbelief as Arthur walked up the driveway and threw the bag of kibble in the rubbish bin. "Those biscuits didn't look very nice," Mary whispered in Lloyd's ear. Lloyd wanted to yell, "They were terrible! Thank you! Thank you!" The cottage was long and thin. It was essentially one long hallway with bedrooms and living rooms all down one side. Lloyd was going to tear up and down this hallway. It was long enough to attain terminal poodlosity. Mary took him through to the kitchen and popped him on the floor. "Let's get a cup of tea on, Lloyd, and then we can show you around your new yard," said Mary as she filled the kettle. Lloyd sat and stared out the glass sliding doors, and the hair on the back of his neck stood up. He saw grass and flowers. Jack and Dawn barreled into the room and scooped Lloyd up. "Come on, Lloyd, come and see your garden," they yelled with excitement as they carried him out to the grass. "What do you think, Lloyd?" asked Dawn. "Will this make you happy?" asked Jack. Lloyd looked around and his senses were overwhelmed by colour and smell. Here was a little cottage garden surrounding a small patch of velvet-smoothed grass. It looked like a perfect poodle-sized garden. It was all Lloyd had ever hoped for now he lived in the big city. His emotions took over and he started running around in circles, barking his little fluffy head off. Dawn and Jack started chasing him in circles, screaming in delight. Pretty quickly, nobody knew who was chasing who. They were all just running in a circle, screaming and barking until they collapsed into a heap together. Lloyd madly licked their faces while they pretended to protest. They'd both wanted a dog for so long, they didn't mind a poodle pash. The sun was going down and it was close to dinner time. Everybody came inside and Lloyd was able to really relax for the first time in 3 days. It gave him time to study his new family. Arthur was a tallish man with short, sandy brown hair. Mary had a warm Earth Mother personality and an amazing mop of dark frizzy hair. Dawn and Jack were a pair of blondies. Dawn's hair was long, blonde and wavy. Jack kept his short, parted down the middle and swept back on either side. Mary called out to the kids, "Okay, Kitty Winkles, dinner is close. Take Lloyd out to the toilet." The kids carried Lloyd out to the backyard and placed him on the grass. There was no splatter on his feet, and the kids clapped him as he peed. He laughed and reflected on how his life had changed. He had gone from having a lead yanked tight around his neck to being cheered while he went to the toilet. "Now," said Mary, "our poodle is looking rather thin, so let's fatten him up a little." Lloyd had not eaten a proper meal since he left Perp's farm. What would they feed him? Would it be nice? Could it be better than compost kibble? Would his tummy ever forgive him? The answer came soon enough. He was getting a bowl of chicken! Talk about famine to feast. This must be some sort of special welcoming dinner. He'd never heard of a dog getting a whole bowl of chicken. Mary placed Lloyd's bowl down, and he smashed it down so fast he barely tasted it. "Whoosh!" exclaimed Mary as she shook her head in amazement. Lloyd's belly was full. He was so happy he started running in circles, barking for joy. The kids were whooping encouragement and trying to pat him as he sped past. This went on for minutes until Lloyd tripped and collapsed in a heap. The kids rolled with him and hugged him on the floor. The Boogles sat down and had their dinner. Lloyd lay there with his tummy, gurgling and whirring. "My tummy doesn't remember what proper food feels like," he reasoned. Lloyd wondered what was going to happen at bedtime. It looked like he was going to sleep in the kitchen. He was okay with that. From his bed he could see straight down the hallway to the bedrooms. The Boogles brushed their teeth and put on their pyjamas. Mary and Arthur gave him a hug and Mary said, "Welcome to the family, Lloyd." The kids hugged the life out of him. Lloyd thought he might pop and chicken would explode all over the room. He lay there going over the day's events. Who could have ever predicted how this day worked out? Things had been looking quite miserable in the morning. By the end of the day, he had found a family that really wanted him. Everything had turned on the head of a pin. "Good night, Lloyd," called out Dawn. "We love you, Lloyd," called out Jack. The sounds of the Boogles settling into their beds echoed down the hallway, and Lloyd slowly drifted off into a deep sleep.